Hey, there we go, we're recording. Shitty light, but we don't care. This is for posterity, I guess. I just had a really crappy finish to the evening, so I've self-medicated quite a bit. So I'm probably slurring words a little. I've got the television going, which is going to cause flicker on my face, and I don't really care. I don't even know what it is. Something on multi. Thai news, we don't want Thai news. What else do we want to watch? But no, I don't know. Like, I've been without internet for 2 weeks now. By the time it comes back online, I'll be over my addiction. I may not want internet anymore. I don't know. What's a Polly Pocket? Oh, it's a cartoon. Okay. Long Island. Money, Polly Pocket, Arabic, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's come to the point now that unless you pay for television, we're going to treat you like an absolute fucking moron. Now, this weekend, alright? BBC World Service.
Things like wild goats and wild pigs. And for people who don't know guns, what's it?
People who don't know guns, do you know that I need... Okay, this brings me to a topic. Okay, BBC World Service is talking about the gun restrictions that have just come into New Zealand. Very similar to the situation happening in Australia, where after a major shooting event, it gave the government momentum to come in and heavily regulate private ownership of guns, for better or for worse, because this was at 95 we had our big shooting incident. Wait, hang on. Now I know I'm pissed because I would never do this. Okay, so there we go. So 95 we had a big shooting incident, and it gave the government the momentum and the impetus to come in and do a blanket ban and restructure of the gun licensing and ownership policy procedures. New Zealand's just had theirs, and their politicians are speaking with the exact same language that the Australian politicians used in 95. And it's to create fear and in the general populace, or Gen Pop as they say. So no one argues with the decisions, the steps that they're taking. And you can hardly blame them. I mean, it's a tragic event, and it should never get to that point. And we could go on for hours and hours and hours about how this happened and why it happened. But it has happened, and the result is inevitable, is that the New Zealand government will come in and do a blanket ban across for specific weapons across New Zealand, and it won't stop there. Once they've got their momentum going, they'll start putting controls for many other things as well. And you can't blame them, considering what's happened. I mean, it's the only thing they can control is the people that don't need controlling. And that's what licensing and regulation does, because they can't stop the evil guys from carrying out their evil deeds. Who said that? Was that Bush? But they can control the people who aren't an issue, and that makes everyone feel safer. And while I'm looking at you, I can see that you have a dirty mark. Right there, it's not going to come off, is it? I think it has come off. Okay, so no matter what they do, they can't stop anything else from happening, because the method is not the issue, it's the intent. Anyway, so this weekend we have a New South Wales election. So I'm hoping that everyone is ready to vote and make their vote count. By that I mean not their team win, but make their vote count. If you're happy with the status quo, how things are going in New South Wales at the moment, of which I am not, then continue to vote in the same way that you've always voted. I often get in a conversation with people and they say, oh, I vote this way because this party always does this party always does that. But we have a two major party in New South Wales and in Australia, and unfortunately two parties don't make a democracy. So the original idea of each party no longer exists. We have two major parties. They are technically the same party. It does not matter which party is in control, because no one wants to break the status quo. Both parties are controlled by the same funds, donations. You can tell I'm self-medicated, right? So you just had a really crappy end of the evening, so I'm self-medicated so that I can relax a little bit, and if I'm lucky I'll get to sleep. If not, you'll be watching me do this video for the next 4 hours until the sun comes up, and I may get to sleep by then. So back to the two-party system. The two-party system is not a democracy. The last major election we had in Australia, the two-party system failed, and people voted in minor parties, of which the two-party system, the two major parties, actually didn't know what to do, because then they had to deal with other aspects besides their own political gains. So if you vote this weekend and you're voting for Labor or Liberal, in any country, it seems America's the same, where they have two major parties to claim that it's a democracy. It's not. But if you vote Labor or Liberal, you're probably wasting your vote. Don't bother voting. Just write "Hi Mum" on the vote slip and put it in the box, because it'll have the same effect. The two major parties are controlled by their funders, which we've just seen when they had a Chinese investor and they took away his citizenship so he could return to the country. Now he donated $1 million to each party, and his final words were, "I'll grow up your babies." Right? So the parties have to declare their donations, direct donations. What they don't have to declare is things like fundraising dinners, where they may charge a person $500,000 for a table, which to these guys who fund the parties is bugger all, so they might buy 4 tables. You follow me? Then that's how they get around the maximum amount that you can donate to each political party. Now, while we're on things, because I'm self-medicating and I'm sitting here in a singlet, I never do. Tonight we're using the Tesla mod box. See that? This is a great piece of kit. If you get serious about your vaping, you want to go to the Invader 3. It's a controlled mod box, so it has voltage control, on and off button, low temperature control, low battery control, so you're reasonably safe. At the same time being kind of naughty. And then on top of it I put on the Bogan RDA, which for an RDA I actually enjoy. I enjoy the Bogan's vids, and I enjoy his RDA is good. That was a cloud, and in that I have put the donuts, blueberry donut. I don't do juice reviews because I don't think it's worthwhile. I get a cup of tea as well because I've already self-medicated. We might as well have a cup of tea. So when you go out and vote this weekend, remember to vote your mate. Vote your mate count. Now, I do that by voting for minor parties. I think having minor parties in, and it doesn't matter who the minor party is, having minor parties in keeps the bastards honest, as they say. If you give total control to the major parties, we're fucked. As it stands, this is for New South Wales people, Bill Shorten's job is to make Scott Morrison look as good as possible. This is how you need to understand that it doesn't matter if Labor or Liberal are in, they're both the same party. Now, Scott Morrison's my local member. He's also the current Prime Minister, or the night watchman, as they say, because, lately, we can count how many Prime Ministers there are till Christmas. This is just the politics in Australia. And we've sort of had enough of them piss farting around. And what you've got to remember, an election is a job interview. The politicians are interviewing for a job. You, as the voters, are the interview panel. God help us, eh? So you have to understand, any normal situation, if I employed you as a mechanic and you screwed up, I'd say, fix it or give me my money back. But politicians cover their ass. They give themselves their own pay rise. When they screw up, they go, well, this wasn't me actually. It was the last guy she voted for. Probably 15 governments down. You understand? At this point, the mess that Sydney is in and the political situation we're in, everyone has had enough. And anyone who says to me, I vote Labor because they always support the working man, say, fuck off. That might have been their goal when they started. Yeah? Support the working man. I know people still say to me, I vote Liberal because they always vote. They protect the investor, they like investment and fuck off. So yeah, I'm thoroughly self-medicated now. And where are we up to? Voting. Don't waste your vote. Don't waste your vote. Really think about what you want to vote. If you're happy with the status quo and the way the bullshit and the shit's happening at the moment, and the way the blundering, and in Sydney how they're just throwing money in, they're taking my tax dollars, putting it into a pile, setting fire to it, and say, see how good we are. Don't put up with it, okay? Vote for someone else. It's not a team sport. It's not like you vote. You're not supporting anyone who really gives a shit about you. Yeah. So after a bad finish to a night at work, I just had a total fuckwit. Had to deal with a total fuckwit, and it takes you a while to de-stress. Fuckwits do that to you. So yeah, it's a special political edition of the Grumpy Report. Please don't waste your vote this weekend. Get yourself a democracy sausage, or maybe a cake stall where you can get some freedom of speech scones. Because this is Australia, we don't have freedom of speech in Australia. It's not in our constitution. If you say the wrong thing, we have libel laws. Welcome to Australia. I'm going to do an episode of the Grumpy Report on the dark side of Australia, because I talk to a lot of tourists in my job, and they tell me how wonderful Australia is, and if you've been born here, like you've won the lotto. And excuse me, I'm looking at the lens in the camera. I don't know if it's that mark's meant to be there. So yeah, if you've been born here, you've won the lotto. But we have a dark side to Australia. And I'm going to do a Grumpy Report on the dark side of Australia, and New Zealand, who's in the news at the moment because it's the South Pacific version of Sweden, where everything's groovy, and New Zealand is a really nice place to go and visit. But it has its dark side too. For my friends that have grown up in New Zealand, they tell me their stories. Now, this special edition of the Grumpy Bit Report is brought to you by Jim Beam and the Bogan RDA. And what did I put in there? Oh, donuts. I feel better now. I've got that off my chest. I'll talk to you later, maybe Sunday. Okay? Bye now.